listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am once again supervised closely this morning.
Yes, you are. And I'm very thankful for the Father getting me back on my feet again.
Not as much as I am. Oh, goodness. As folks are tuning in, I want to remind you to check out GiveGod90.com. While you're there, look for the books. You can't order them directly from the website. I just don't have time for that. Along with a lot of other things I need to get to that I don't have time for. But check them out. Probably something you want. When you get them, get two, one for you, and give one to your pastor. He needs it. Trust me. They need it, especially Inheriting Lies. That is a forensic study is what I call it. It compares verses in the Bible that go back and support each other, and in ways that most people have never thought of putting together, which kind of brings me to something I wanted to mention. A couple of times people have said, what's this Give God 90 thing? And it takes a moment to actually explain it. And I had somebody say, you should probably come up with a different name. And as we were talking with some other folks the other night, I said, well, I guess I'm a biblical forensic specialist. and I say that sarcastically, but the reality is I don't know anybody else that does that. Not like I do and not like I train people to do. Now, studying the Bible forensically will probably not lead you into becoming a believer if you're not. Does that make sense? Okay. But if you accept what the Bible says is truth and you really want to know what that truth is and how it affects your life, then studying the Bible forensically will do that. And quite honestly, it arms you with ammunition. A lot of people call it apologetics. It's not apologetics. We don't apologize for being believers, or we shouldn't. But it does give us the ammunition when we are confronted with why we believe, that we can go back and say, well, the Bible is historically accurate, for one. The things that the Almighty gives to us to use are proven over and over again in the Bible. There is so much information there that you can use for your reference that it pays to study. Because if I say something to someone, it may fall on deaf ears. But if you say the same thing in a different way, they may accept it. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But I want to pass along some information first, something that was in the news, has been in the news this week, about some contaminated eye drops. And this, this is kind of a just be aware thing. Global Pharma Healthcare recalled its artificial tears lubricant eye drops. They were distributed by EzraCare and Delsum Pharma last month. Now, this is not the first time that a major drug manufacturer has had some issues with contaminated products. But because so many people in the springtime have allergy reactions, don't they?
Yes, they do.
A lot of people are using these products. So check what you have and be aware of what you have. Just because you buy it at a drugstore doesn't mean it's safe. It's manufactured somewhere else, probably. The sad part is when you purchase something, you're at the mercy of whatever company produces it. And whether that is a good thing or a bad thing. There's companies out there producing cleaning products that, well, I'm going to say it this way. Do you know what chlorine was originally developed for? It was not a cleaning product. Chlorine was actually developed as a killing agent during World War I. It was a gas. And many, many companies today produce that in various forms. So you're basically bringing toxic chemicals into your house and expecting them to keep you healthy. Does that make sense when I say it like that?
It should make people be like, what?
I hope it does. I hope it does, because if you bring poison into your home and expect it to keep you healthy, that's kind of the opposite of what the result is going to be the opposite of what you want, right? So
poisoning your house and your family.
Exactly. So just be aware of that. Maybe, just maybe, you can find some local natural sources for some of those things. Something that you trust, something that you know is going to function properly. So just be aware of what you're using. And something that comes up in conversation from time to time, and here's what I want to get into today, is how believers, and even people that are new to the faith, I'm going to throw that in there too, and it's how we practice our faith. And I'm not talking about, well, I go to church every Sunday, I go to Sunday school, I go to temple, I go to this, I go to that. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about, do you actually live it? Maybe you've come across some new information. Maybe you've yourself have had some type of epiphany or revelation, and you choose to act on that. Maybe you've heard something new, and you realize, oh, I should be doing this instead of that. Maybe I should give up my empty tradition. Well, I won't go into that right now. I've got a supervisor sitting here who will
Stay on track.
Anyway, when you make that decision to act on this new information or this new revelation, it has a change on you. It has an effect on you, and people around you notice that. Okay, it's just that simple. People around you will notice the change. Oftentimes, with married couples, one person out of the couple will receive new information or revelation. And it's not always something drastic like a visit from an angel. It's not, anything like that. Maybe it's something you've read in the Bible. You've read over it 100 times. Maybe you heard someone read it from a different translation, a different way, and all of a sudden something clicks, and you say, well, I've never thought about it that way before. And you start looking. You get a little deeper. You start to dig. Maybe, you hear something that somebody reads and it connects and answers a question. Maybe it's not even something they read. Maybe it's just an offhand comment. It's something in conversation that happens. I've seen it happen. I've witnessed it. Whatever the information, the revelation is, it changes the way you practice your faith. Now, with couples, you have someone who's now got this new information. They realize they need to adjust their lifestyle. It's going to be a noticeable change, especially for the people closest to them. If you're married or you're considering marriage, you're close to somebody and you've had one of these epiphany, in air quote, moments, you're going to wonder how the other person or the people closest to you are going to react. What are they going to say? Oh, my. Even for parents with especially older children, okay, perhaps these parents have diligently taken these kids to church and to Sunday school all their lives. Now, all of a sudden, the parent receives new information. They get something new. They see something a little different, and they know they have to make a change. How will the adult children react? Because now they've grown up in the traditions of the religion they've been brought up in. What are they going to say? Are they going to accept what the parent says? What child accepts what a parent says? Come on, let's get real here.
Kids never listen to parents.
Kids never listen to parents. We all know that.
Just like parents never listen to kids either.
Well, we don't do that either. Right? How are they going to accept what you have to say? How are they going to react when you adjust your lifestyle? And it doesn't have to be a drastic change. It can be something minor. I'm not talking about switching faith here. I'm not talking about taking your faith from the creator of the universe and putting it somewhere else. I'm talking about the way you practice that faith. Maybe you've grown up, and I'm going to throw out one of the denominations that I'm closest associated with, and that's the Methodist. Maybe you've been brought up in a Methodist church, and you realize they're doing things they shouldn't be doing, and you have to adjust your lifestyle. It may mean you have to stop attending a Methodist church. A lot of people have done that recently. In fact, entire worship communities have withdrawn their association from the Methodist Church over some things that are happening. When you realize this and you have to make that change, it may not be that drastic. People notice. People talk. Because everyone is different, there's no one-size-fits-all answer for the way you approach someone, okay? Everybody has to walk out their own faith, so to speak. Everybody has to approach their faith from their own observation and their own unique history. Now, speaking in very general terms here, when you do make this change, when you do discover something new, when don't take a hardcore approach with people. It doesn't usually work unless you're like me. I told the Almighty, I said, you designed me with a hard head and a thick skin. If you want to get through to me, you have to beat me over the head with a baseball bat. And he did. Not literally, but almost. Now, for married folks, we know a couple who have actually improved their marriage. They've gotten closer because of the way they handled that situation. Even though they were both believers and they were practicing their faith the way, the Creator desired, they thought, when one of them realized they might not quite have it accurate, he simply asked, are we doing this right? Are we, am I looking at this the way I should be looking at this, or am I seeing something that's not here? That sort of brought them together. They began to study a little more deeply and a little more earnestly, and they actually did discover that some things that they had been doing were separating them from the Almighty, and they had a change to make. We also know people who attempted to force feed their family, and it caused some family drama. Know several families like that. We know people who were very strong in their faith. They diligently took their children to church and to Sunday school, made sure that they had established a relationship with the Almighty to the best of their ability. But then when the parents began to study and say, this is not exactly how we should be worshiping, this isn't how we should be living, it confused the adult children who rejected what they had to say because they had become so ingrained into the traditions of the denomination that was all they knew, that they didn't want to know anything else. And of course, children don't listen to parents, especially adult children. They have to figure it out on their own. And most of us have our own tale to tell about how and when we began to seek a more intimate relationship with the Creator, and how people in our life at that time either accepted it or they rejected it. Sometimes they reject the Creator as well. It's that simple. But because we often get focused with our own interpretation and how we have begun to view the Bible, we think if we give someone else that same exact information the way we received it, they're going to see things our way. It doesn't always work like that. I'm going to use this example. In the Japanese culture, the craftsmen accept an apprentice. The apprentice doesn't touch a tool for a long period of time. They are expected to watch the craftsman work, and they are expected to, for lack of a better word, steal his secrets as he's working, because he doesn't hide anything from them. Do you see how that kind of fits with the way we are supposed to be acting in our lives? If we're the example, if we're the craftsmen of the faith, then our apprentices, our children, and the people around us should see how we live, and they are expected then to question and wonder and steal our secrets, because the Father doesn't hide anything that he wants revealed to us. That's why he gives us the prophets. Isn't it? I think it's Amos that says, God doesn't reveal anything, or God doesn't keep in secret anything that he doesn't want us to know. Something like that. I should have looked that up, but anyway. You realize at what Christians call the day of Pentecost, the exact words Peter used are not recorded, and there's a reason for that. If Peter's exact words had been recorded, then we would expect to be able to use those exact words and have people all over the world just, flock to the faith. And that's not the intention. The reality is, just like with a lot of things, time is needed when you receive new information to process it. It needs to be processed in our minds. It needs to be processed in our hearts. And actually, Myra and I are a good example of this. Even though, we've both been brought up in a Christian home, Christian parents. Her parents were missionaries. We still had questions. I probably had more than she did. She's smiling. And when I really started to study, and I kind of tell that story in Tradition to Truth, I realized that the traditions of our particular denominations didn't match what the Bible was telling us. Some things were actually in conflict with what the Bible was teaching. And it was a little over a year before she was ready to realize that she'd been reading the Bible through the filters of denominational doctrine. And now one of her favorite sayings is, if you just read what's there.
Read the words without any thoughts. Just read the words.
Just read the words. How do you argue with that? But yeah, when she read the words and stopped trying to force something into it that wasn't there, I think she realized she had a choice to make. Thankfully, she chose to believe what was written and not what she wanted to read into it.
Right.
And not everyone has that kind of story to tell, though. We know people who have been separated from their children and grandchildren. The adult children say, "No, all you want to do is this." And let's face it, when someone who was raised Christian looks at the feasts described in Leviticus 23, and they say, "Wait a minute, these aren't Jewish feasts; these are God's feasts. Maybe we should celebrate these." Well, then the Christians say, "Oh, you're just trying to be Jewish." Well, no, we're trying to do what the Bible tells us to do. When the Jewish folks, they look at what Yeshua, Jesus, teaches and says, well, wait a minute. What he's actually teaching is, don't worry about the traditions and doctrines of men. Just do what Moses said to do. Then all of a sudden, the other Jews around him look at him and say, well, you're just trying to be Christian. It strains the relationships between family. It strains the relationships between friends. Is there an easy one-size-fits-all answer for this? No, there isn't. There is not. You see, it's not a Christian thing. It's not a Jewish thing. It's a God thing. Of all these folks, they have something in common. And the thing that they have in common is that they would not trade their relationship that they have found with the creator of the universe. They won't go back. They can't go back because now they understand. They have a deeper understanding. Do they miss their family? Do they miss their friends? Yeah, they do. But what they have, I should say it this way, what they have built, the relationship that they have built with the Creator is far more valuable to them. And the life they're living, they're hoping that their family and friends will see that. They're hoping that their family and friends will say, how is it that you can be so calm, cool, and collected in the midst of all the chaos? What is it that you have that I need? Hopefully, they're going to acquire something. Paul wrote to the Philippians in 2:12. He says, therefore, just as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now even more in my absence, continue to work out your salvation in fear and trembling. But Paul didn't come up with anything new. Don't even think that is something new. Psalm 2:11. Serve Jehovah with fear and rejoice with trembling. You see, he understands that service to the Creator of the universe brings you closer to him. And you can work those things out in fear and trembling with respect. with wondering, am I doing this right? Do I have this correct? Each of us should be willing to subject ourselves to the authority of the Creator and discover what He has to say to us. And we do that with a great amount of respect, as if you would approach anyone who has authority over you, whether it be a judge, whoever you subject yourself to. But because He created us, our Creator has complete authority over us. But He allows our compliance to be voluntary to a point. Now, that point changes drastically when you stand in front of the throne of judgment. Because at that point, if you have not been compliant, you're not going to like the results. You're not going to like the outcome. You see, He doesn't force us to choose Him. He desires us to choose Him. He desires us to accept and acknowledge Him. So when we do choose Him and we do adjust our lifestyle to match the way He designed us to live, people get confused. They see us for who we were, and now they're looking at us and say, what has happened to you? And, the really strange part is that when they reject what we've discovered, we're the ones who get offended. Don't think that you're not. Look what I found. Oh, that's nothing. And we get offended. Why? Because what we have takes us that next step closer to the Almighty. We want them to come along with us, and they're not willing to come on our path. There's a reason for that. The path is narrow, but each of us has our own path. No two people are exactly the same. You are unique. Sometimes they hear us, but they don't listen. We can't force them to listen. Doesn't happen that way. Sometimes they reject us, and we feel abandoned. Well, get over it. That's the best advice I can give you. Don't feel abandoned by people. They're not the ones that you're going to be standing in front of at Judgment Day. If they walk away from you, let them. It's not that you walked, you attempted to give them an example. You attempted to deliver a message. If they didn't hear it, that is not on you. How many people listened to Jeremiah? Not very many. The Christian church has a saying, Jeremiah prophesied for over 40 years and never had one convert. So, did he deliver the message? Did he deliver the message that his Creator gave to him to speak? Absolutely. Did he do his job? Absolutely. Did it cost him his friends and his family? Absolutely. Was he content? Yes. Was he sad? Yes. But at the same time, for all of his lamentations, for all of his sorrow, he had something that a lot of people didn't have. He had a peace and a joy in his heart because he knew that he had done exactly what his Creator had asked him to do. Some of us may wonder why I have come across this new revelation. Why did you show this to me? Why am I seeing this now at this point in my life? Why am I getting this? Well, you're getting it for a reason. It may be for you. It may be to pass along to someone that you don't know yet. It may be to pass along to somebody that you do know. I think that the reason people get information and they process information, and I'm talking about biblical information. I'm not talking about just general knowledge. Sometimes when that information is passed along properly, it causes someone to question. And it makes them wonder what's going on. So that now they start to wonder and they start to look. And hopefully it drives them into a deeper Bible study, maybe. Maybe if they're not a believer, if they've had rejected the Almighty in the past, it may make them look at it a little different. Maybe there's something to this Bible thing. It has to start somewhere. You know, when we're asked to do something, when we receive information, when we receive revelation, it's not going to be the same for everyone, right? Noah, you know, he got the revelation and the information to build a great big boat. Jonah, take this message to Nineveh. What's yours going to be? Well, that I will let you work out in fear and trembling. So, the bottom line for all of that is there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. Everyone has to work that out on their own. Maybe you have adult children. Maybe you have older parents who don't understand. It's okay. Be the example. Don't force feed it. Just go live the way your Creator designed you to live. One of two things can happen. Either the people around you will see that and see your commitment to it, see your dedication to it, and be positively affected by it, or they're going to completely reject your lifestyle. They're not rejecting you, just as Samuel said. Just as Samuel heard, to be more accurate. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the Creator. Don't allow their rejection of Him to lead to your rejection. Work that out in fear and trembling. So until Thursday, and hopefully we won't have another electric problem.
Right. Let's hope not.
Many, many blessings, everyone.